Hey folks, it's Kodey Stoffer with Playmakers Corner, here to tell you about Code Red coaching. Competing in athletics means you've lifted the weights, you've watched film, and you've got the passion. Problem is, that's what everyone else in the state has done. Perfect your game by honing in on your mental performance with Code Red coaching. Whether you are a team or an individual, Code Red coaching has the tools to create mentally solid habits and set up you or your team for success. Find Code Red coaching at coderedcoaching.com or call 720-979-1914 to learn more today. That's coderedcoaching.com or 720-979-1914 today. Now back to the show. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I am one of your hosts for this episode, Kodey Stoffer.
And I'm your other co-host, Simon Villanos, a.k.a. Coach V.
And today we continue our top 5 position by position senior rankings here. And today we have a very talented group in edge rusher here. This, I can say without a doubt, this is the most fun I've had to this point watching film, which, gets me excited for the wide receivers that does follow this. But for those who don't know, we go through 10 different categories. We rate the scores on a 1 through 10 scale. That scale being 1 through 3, needing improvement, should be a priority, could be something that gets you benched. 4 through 6 being average, on a bad day, just below average, but above average at the very best, but can be something to work on. 7 to 8 is above average to good. This is a part of their bag. This is one of the reasons that we are taking a look at them on here. And 8 to 9 is good to great. 9 to 10 being very good to elite. That 8 to 9 range is 3 to 4 star level talent. And that 9 to 10 range is 4 to 5 star level talent here. We add all 10 of these categories up and, kind of use a similar-ish scale, If you're in, like, the high 70s to low 80s, you're like a 2 to 3 star kind of prospect. If you start to get to that mid 80s to high 80s to 90s range, you're a 4 star kind of prospect, which is important, so keep that in mind. And, above that, we haven't had a 5-star prospect here at in our evaluations and our time here at PMC. But, so on and so forth. Anything below, that high 70s is more of a 2-star kind of guy. And then we also determine what level that we think these players can play on and what fit they'll have on their program. Kind of project maybe how many years they'll be able to contribute or start even for said program or said level, and kind of go from there. So to get more specific with edge rushers here, we have 10 different categories here, and they go as follows. Speed/finesse moves. This, obviously works for, your spins or, your quick swims, your quick rips, stuff like that, as well as, how fast do you have a speed rush? Do you have that burst off the edge? How do you kind of bend in that way, and how does that look, no matter how you're getting into the backfield, but especially in my eyes, in the pass rush. Tackling's tackling. We talk about it all the time, especially because we've been pretty defense heavy in this first month here. So just reference that. Run stopping. Not only is this, are they able to make plays in the backfield and do they contribute in the run game, but I think that more importantly, that it's worth noting about the, can they make a read on the run here, and how do they read the linemen, and how does that impact their play here? So also their IQ, in the run game. Power rushing, once again, this is obviously headlined by everyone's first thought of, can they bull rush their way into the backfield through linemen and whatnot? Can they put linemen in quarterbacks' laps, into the running backs' laps? But also in that sense, what is their hand strength kind of like in that kind of motive and things that are entailed with power rushing. Release/first step here, that very first step off the line can make or break a pass rush here. And so we definitely take that into account. Not only, how fast is that first step / do they take a false step, but also, what does their leverage look like straight off the ball, straight off the snap count? And, do they do a good job of watching their film, studying tendencies, and, being able to even jump the snap count very, very well? Think of, a Von Miller and how well he's been able to do that, and how, that puts them in position to make a play following that. After that, agility / footwork, this is a little bit different. This is also, how well do these guys move laterally? How well do they move sideline to sideline? Can they chase things down? And, when they're squaring up to tackle as well, that's especially important with footwork. And what does it look like as well when they're utilizing their other bags of moves here? Hit power, strength, those are pretty straightforward, I'd like to think. Can they crunch someone? And, can they move people around? And then pass coverage here. Can they drop back into zone? Can they cover a man? And something else that I take into consideration, otherwise some of these guys would literally be at a zero, is, do they read screenplays? That's a place where an edge player can make a lot of noise. Or can they get their hands up and bat some passes at the line? That's a way to earn some points here. And then size / frame. Coach V, do you have anything to add on to these categories before I introduce our very first prospect here?
Nope, go ahead. By the way, we are recording this on December 6th, 2022. I'm just saying that because we're going to talk about commitments and all that stuff here in a little bit. And who knows, maybe someone will flip or some decisions will be made. So, yeah. But other than that, Kodey, go ahead and talk about our number 5 pass rusher, edge rusher here in the class of 2023.
Sweet. And the first guy capping off this list here was the leading tackler in the state for this past season, and is a very intriguing, versatile prospect to open up our list here in Regis Jesuits Hayden Moore here. And, he finished the season with 197 total tackles and 17 of those going for loss, while getting to the quarterback an additional 7 times here. And so let's go outside of those numbers and inside of our numbers here to grade him. And I'm just going to go down the line here. Speed / finesse moves, I have it an 8. Tackling, I have it a 7.8. Run stopping, a 7.6. Power rushing, a 6.8. Release / first step, an 8.1. Agility / footwork, an 8.3. Hit power, a 7. Strength, a 6.7. Pass coverage, a 7.4. And size / frame at a 7.3. He is currently listed at 6'3", 215, 220. I think he's closer to the 215, maybe even 210 size, honestly. And so he's interesting here because his role was at linebacker, primarily 4-3 outside backer here. But there's plenty of instances of him not only being a stand-up edge kind of guy, but also getting his hand in the dirt as well and making plays from there. Like I said, he got to the quarterback a handful of times this year, and he's a very high-impact, versatile athlete here. And I think that is where one of his strengths start here is, his agility / footwork is his highest rated category for me at an 8.3. He moves around the field very, very well. And, at his size, frame, and speed, that does create some problems for some tackles. He is able to get a bend in his pass rush, which is nice, and also noted in his release / first step, so he can get around that way. But he's a really good sideline to sideline kind of guy, at least compared to some of these other edge rushers here. And the fact that he's able to move around the field and he has that, that tool in his toolkit here for what he can be asked to do. He's somebody who can go across the field and make a play. Now, speaking on release / first step, he is quick off the line. He very rarely false steps. I mean, he does sometimes. That's why it's at an 8.1 and not necessarily higher. But, his first step is what allows him to make so many different plays for this Regis team. And, it gives him a huge advantage because he's not the strongest guy per se. But, his first step does help him out. And even when he is in a linebacker sort of stance, he very rarely, if ever, takes like a back pedal step too. He's usually flowing straight to the direction of the football, and that allows him to, rack up as many tackles as he did have. So in, both positions that he has been asked to do, he has a nice first step here in the direction of the play and conducive to the impact of the play here. Now, speed/finesse moves, like I said, he has a nice little bend where he can get underneath tackles, outside shoulder pads, beat them around the edge. He can get very low, and he can even come all the way around too. His speed is something to note and even to fear off the edge, because he can get, all the way around a tackle and have them spinning in circles. And by the time that they're, seeing the birds flying around their head or the stars because they're so dizzy, he's already made the play on the quarterback, or he's already disrupted the play. He's, forced to hurry, he's forced to fumble, what have you. He has done his damage already there. Additionally, something that I want to note that he is good at, especially in context of this list, is his pass coverage, especially, having that experience at that 4-3 outside backer spot. He is capable of dropping into a mid zone as well as buzzing the flats as well. And, that puts him in the higher echelon of pass coverage on this list, where he has gotten some pass breakups, he's gotten an interception, and shown all right hands. So his pass coverage is at a 7.4, which is one of the higher ones on this list. And then the other things that he kind of has in that 7 range, just continuing on here, is the tackling and run stopping. He reads the run pretty well. He fills lanes, and, he doesn't wait for the run to come to him. That's something that I know a lot in a run stopping kind of situation. And he's done so from both his 4-3 spot as well as that edge spot, or in the dirt as well. Being able to even rip inside and force some runs for a loss. So, yeah, he's very solid at a lot of different things, but there are some areas of improvement here. His first and biggest one is his strength. He's I don't know, man. Especially, he's somebody who can get hemmed up by a bigger tackle, or by a guard, or by a fullback or running back even. There's one play, I know it was on his junior year film, so take this for what you will, but Mullins' running back, number 21, stood up Hayden Moore, and he just stopped, like entirely full stop. But luckily, the Mullen quarterback couldn't come to a decision, so he was holding on to the ball for way long. But Hayden got completely stood up, and that's something that I noticed throughout his highlight reel as well as his film sometimes is, he can absolutely just get nullified. And I think that that's a strength issue. I just don't think that at his frame size and strength that he matches up very well with especially some of the better tackles that we have here in the state. He'd rather avoid getting hands put on him. And, that is also why his power rushing is not that great either. I'm actually going to even dip this power rushing to like a 6.3 even, honestly, because he just doesn't really have a bag. There's times where he does blow off, a running back or a fullback or a tight end, but that doesn't really mean all that much to me. So his power rushing comes from his acceleration, and it comes from his explosiveness at just hitting you at 1,000,000 miles an hour when you're not going 1,000,000 miles an hour. So there's like potential there, I guess you could say, but it is an area that still needs significant work, and that's going to start with strength and just getting stronger. And then his next lowest category here, and the last one that I'll talk about before pass it off to Coach V, is hit power. There's just not really any hits on his highlight reel or in real life where I was like, oh, wow, is that guy going to get back up? And I think that that's a good scale for hit power, is like, is there a chance that when you lay this hit that player is going to be slow to get up? Are you laying a clean hit? Are you, hitting the right spot? And are you driving through this person to knock the wind out of him or what have you? And I just don't really see that with Hayden Moore on his film. Look, he's a very good athlete. He can move around the field well, and he has a nice, speed burst rush off the edge, but he's just not the strongest guy, and he can be blocked, only being able to generate power at a distance. Coach V, am I being too harsh on some of these other categories, / what does your breakdown of Hayden Moore look like?
Well, first things first, I don't think you're being too harsh. I am going to throw it out there as well. Hayden Moore played a combination of inside slash linebacker, and on the edge, we decided to classify him as an edge rusher over inside linebacker just because in the games that we watched, at least, he was mostly on the edge, right? The games that we watched in person, that is. Obviously, we have access to a whole bunch of other film and other games, but in the games that we watched in person, he was on the edge. And so we're grading him as an edge rusher. I think realistically on the next level, he's most likely a 4-3 outside linebacker. Maybe you can make the switch for him to play inside linebacker in like those 3-4 sets or other sets like that. And so just keep all of that in mind here. And so it was a little difficult to grade him here, but we did what we could. And so, no, I don't think you're being harsh. And in fact, I agree with you with pretty much everything here. Let me just go down the line with my grades. So with speed and finesse, gave him an 8.5. Tackling 8.6, run stopping 8.7, power rushing is a 6 for me. Release first step 8.4, agility footwork is a 9, hit power is a 7.5. I believe that strength, yes, is a 7. Pass coverage is an 8. And then size frame gave him an 8 there. I don't know if he's quite 220 pounds. He looks pretty light from what I've seen. He's not below 210. But I don't know if he's quite there at 220. I don't know. We'll see. Altogether, my overall grade for him is a 79.7. I still think he's a 3-star guy. I'll talk about his highest grades here. His highest grade was an 8.7. That went to run stopping, and then tackling was an 8.6, and speed finesse is a 8.5. Look, he's a really good tackler. You know, when watching him play, I got to see him against Pine Creek, Cherry Creek, and then I watched him online. I watched the whole game. I watched him in that playoff game against Valor Christian. But as far as tackling and run stopping goes, I mean, at his linebacker position, he does a good job playing the run and stopping the run. And I say both playing and stopping the run because there's two different, I feel like those two are a little bit different here. You know, stopping the run, you're making the play, you're tackling, right? He's not going to miss many tackles or have many tackles broken on him. He's pretty fundamentally sound there. And then when it comes to playing the run, he does a good job filling gaps, filling lanes, you know, doing the right thing to help the team, eating a block if he needs to, and all that great stuff. And so those are his strengths for sure here. Even if he was to play edge rusher on the next level, I think he'd be solid enough there. And speaking on the next level, I think he's very much a speed edge rusher if he does play on the edge because he's fast. I mean, he has a good first step. I believe I actually made a mistake here. Agility and footwork is a 9, so it's one of his highest ones. But his release first step, I gave him a solid 8.4. You know, his get off is pretty solid. But as far as just being a great athlete, you know, being speedy, being agile, I mean, he covers the football field really well, a good sideline to sideline player, and he will cover, or he will hold down his side of the field, as in he won't let anybody on the outside. He'll keep contained, do all of that great stuff because he's just more athletic there. And so very much a speed rusher type of guy. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some of his areas of improvement, some weaker areas here. His lowest grade is a 6. That comes in power rushing here. Doesn't really have any power rushing moves, and he doesn't really use it a whole lot. In fact, whenever he gets engaged or locked on, as in like, you know, linemen or whoever gets their hands on him and is able to make a block, he definitely struggles, and it's very apparent there, which is kind of a red flag if you ask me. Most of the time he's able to get by a guy because he's just faster than them. He's able to run past them, or he's able to swipe at their hands real quick and then find a quick lane there and go from there. But when he does get engaged, he really struggles with just breaking that, and that's definitely a big red flag for me, at least. He's just gonna have to get stronger, honestly, to combat that. And so for now, his power rushing is a 6. His strength, I think I'm a little bit generous here. I gave him a 7 here. he needs to get stronger. That's just it, to start or to even get playing time on the next level. Because, like I said, when people get hands on him, he struggles. He's just not strong enough to break off the hands of some of these big tackles. And yes, Colorado does have some great linemen, especially on 5A, but still, though, on the D1 level, which is where he's going to play at probably, you're going to have a lot of those guys. You're going to have a lot of big dudes with powerful hands, and so he has to find a way to combat that outside of his finesse and speed, which is pretty good as is. And so there you go. Those are his lowest grades. Altogether, I mean, he's a speed guy. I think he's probably not really going to play on the edge on the next level. He just played on the edge on this level, and so that's why we are categorizing him here instead of inside linebackers. And even if he was rated at inside linebacker, he'd probably be in the same spot or maybe a spot above. Who knows, but for now, I think he does a solid job coming off the edge here. I mean, he is still a fast dude. He's long as well, which does give some guys some problems. He has a really long reach. And so, yeah, that's Hayden Moore. Any place to run well, there's a reason why he led the state in tackles. Still a very high-level prospect here. Kodey, he will be going to Nebraska. At least he's committed there as of right now. What do you think about Hayden Moore, and what do you think about my evaluation of him? Because I just don't know if he's really going to be an edge guy on the next level unless he continues to put on some weight here.
Yeah, he's in a tough spot as far as, what is he going to play and what does that mean for his future at Nebraska? Now, at Nebraska, obviously, he committed back when Scott Frost was the guy. So, I'm interested to see how that kind of plays out here. But, I mean, I feel like no matter what, he's going to have to get bigger. Even if he does become an inside backer guy, he's just very lanky. And, he's going to have to get his strength up no matter what. Because, I mean, if you're having trouble tackling some of the backs here in Colorado from this past year, at least on his schedule, then you're really going to struggle if you're, going up against that competition that Nebraska goes up against. And I don't think it's going to be great. So I think that no matter where he goes, because, I mean, look, he had offers to Army, Air Force, Iowa State, Texas A&M before committing to Nebraska. And I think no matter where he goes, he's a redshirt guy. I think that no matter where he goes, there's going to be conversations amongst his, position coaches as well as the defensive coordinator as far as how to use him, which, while maybe confusing, from an evaluation standpoint, it does make him easier to, get in to certain situations. I think that you don't have to worry about your playbook for Hayden Moore. I think that he's a smart player who understands how to play a lot of positions, and that versatility does make it easier to find room for him on the field. It does make it easier for him to find ways to make plays and to contribute on the field as well. So I agree with your analysis entirely. We weren't really that far off. The overall PMC grade for Hayden Moore was a 77.05, by the way, just going to put that out there. And yeah, I think that, with his athletic upside and with his speed, that's definitely where that third star comes in and starts knocking on that door. But, there's definitely some conversations to be had over, between the coaches and staff as far as how to use him. And I think that, being like an outside backer who can help you in coverage, but you're also comfortable sending on a blitz every once in a while, I think that that'd be a really good scheme fit for Hayden Moore here. And how they use that. I guess, it comes up to Matt Rule and, what system he wants to run. And, Matt Rule, he's utilized some pretty athletic backers in the past in some interesting ways like he did over at Baylor. So, I think that it's an intriguing idea for sure. As far as, I think that if he sticks at Nebraska, he will find time and ways to make impact on the field, but not in his first year.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, here's the bottom line. He's talented enough to play on the D1 level, and I definitely agree with that. It also helps to be, a versatile dude. You know when you get a guy like Hayden Moore, you're not just getting like a pass rusher. You're getting someone who could cover, who could play the run, and all that great stuff. And so all that's going for him now with a guy like Matt Rule over there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and how he's developed, because I'm pretty sure Matt Rule was the coach at, or was on staff at Boston College back when they had guys like Hassan Reddick and all those dudes who I feel like, were Hayden Moore types coming out of high school. And so things could definitely get interesting here. It's not a bad thing for coaching staffs to have conversations about you, as long as they keep you on the roster and you're on scholarship. It's just going to be more about positional fit and where they want to set you at. And luckily for Hayden Moore, because he can play multiple different positions and different roles, at least he knows that he's going to be valued, and that, he's not going to be someone that's just going to be so easily cut because of his versatility. So that's the important thing here. But right now, we know what he does well. He could continue to work on that moving forward. So, yeah. But, Kodey, is there anything else you want to talk about here about Hayden Moore?
No, obviously I wish him the best of luck. And yeah, versatility will keep you on the roster, and it will keep you with a scholarship. And I think that on the next level, there's definitely opportunity for him. But honestly, I don't really have anything else to add on to our number 5 guy. But our number 4 guy, I think it's going to throw some people for a loop. What do you think, Coach V?
No, it definitely will be, because I think everyone expects these types of lists to be all 5A and 4A guys, but this is just simply not the fact. This is not reality. There are a lot of dudes who made this list and did not make this list from all different classifications. And this guy is from the 1A level out of Ray, Colorado. That is Tell Wade, the 6'3", 250-pound defensive end here, committed to Wyoming. So there you go there. We got to watch him live in the state championship game against the powerhouse that is Lyman. And I think that was a really good game to watch, because in case you don't know about 1A football, because I know some people don't, Lyman is kind of the top dog, and they got some big dudes out there. They got some big dudes, like 6'3", 6'4 plus. A lot of guys who are in that 250-pound range and above over there, and they had like 3 or 4 of those guys, I want to say, at least on this last state championship team. And Tell Wade, he had a very good game, even though they didn't win that one. He still did his thing. And so let's go ahead and go down the line. I'm going to talk about my grades here. So first things first, speed and finesse moves. Gave him a solid 8 here. Tackling was an 8.5, run stopping 8.3, power rushing is an 8.7, release first step is a 7, agility and footwork though is an 8.7, hit power is an 8.4, strength is an 8.6, pass coverage a 5. Really didn't see him drop back a lot, but I'll explain that more later here. Size frame 8.6 here. Overall, he's a 79.8 for me. He's actually rated only 0.1 point higher than Hayden Moore here. So that's how close this was, at least for me. But let's talk about the things he does really well. His highest grades was an 8.7 for power rushing and an 8.7 for agility footwork here. 2 very interesting combinations. So first things first, at power rushing, I mean, look, this is a dude at 6'3", 250. He definitely looks it. Honestly, and just watching him play, I mean, he is a manhandler out there. He has extremely strong hands, and they are very precise when it comes to swiping at blockers and getting leverage. He does a very good job there. One of the best in the entire state, in my opinion. And I mean, he just does such a good job getting leverage and just really just overpowering dudes. He's a really strong guy for his height and weight, honestly. So there you go there. And then on top of that, his agility footwork, I mean, it's at an 8.7. He moves really well for 6'3", 250. This is a guy that could go sideline to sideline very well. There's nobody that's going to get past him if he has contain. Just straight up. He's going to funnel everybody inside, and that's just it, There's nothing really else to it. He finds a way to get it done, and he's just really athletic in that sense there. He carries this weight really well at 250, and so real confident about that. He does a lot of other things great. Good against the run, good tackling, a good awareness too. That helps him pass rush and shut down running lanes and all that great stuff. So there you go. Now let's talk about some things he could definitely improve on. First step, I gave him a 7 here. There are times where he has a fantastic first step. Right out, like shot out of a cannon type of first step. And then there are times where, yeah, it's a little lacking. I don't know if maybe he just didn't hear the snap count right, or is not looking at the football, or I don't know, but he's like a whole second late or whatever, and we'll see. That's probably fixable, honestly. He could continue to get faster and more explosive there. And there are definitely flashes, like I said, where he is really good. But I think for me, this is just more of a consistency thing. I like to see him have a consistent, good, quick first step here, and so that's why that's a 7. Pass coverage wise, gave him a 5. Wasn't dropped back at all. And usually my default grade for that is a 6. But on top of that, I just don't know if I would trust him to drop back and cover someone man to man. Well, I wouldn't at all. And then in zone, it could be a little bit iffy here. He doesn't see, at least on the 1A level, you don't see too many teams that pass it lethally and efficiently. Lyman was probably the best one that he saw, because he didn't play Colorado Springs Christian or Manual or Estes Park, I don't think. So there you go there. And even then, even if he did play those teams, they're not dropping him into coverage, so he's not recognizing pass concepts. His job usually is to pass rush, and I think that's okay. The type of player he is, he's a very good power rusher, who has a little bit of bend to him and all that. He has a little finesse there too. Good little balance here when it comes to his game. But anyways, that is Tell Wade. Kodey, what do you think about that, and what are your grades?
Well, Tell Wade, I am very, very high on Tell Wade. And, I agree with everything you said, especially because, people are going to be like, oh, he's 1A, he's not facing. And it's like, no. He beat the best of the best in 1A. Also, something that came up during our conversation, Simon, and we'll talk about this more later, but if Wyoming offered him, and Wyoming, rides with Tell Wade very, very hard. He's one of the prospects that I've seen the most graphics or designs made for, period. And that's for any prospect out of any school. And I think that the reason is because they saw him do his thing at a camp against other D1 talent. And that's why they'd pull the trigger on him. So I think that that's where that comes from. And so with Tell Wade here, let's go through his numbers here. Speed/finesse moves, 8.1. Tackling, 8.2. Run stopping, 8.6. Power rushing, 8.5. Release/first step, 7.4. Agility/footwork, 8.8. Hit power, 8.3. Strength, 8.6. Pass coverage, 3.9. Size/frame, 8.6. So, you're at a couple 8.6s in there. Not going to go too in-depth into the frame. Obviously, 6'3", 250, solid frame. He wears it well. He's stout. And, I think that's where his power can come from. Look, his strength is one of his highest rated things, 8.6. There's times where he literally just tosses linemen to the side like a bale of hay. Now, I'm not sure if he's done that out there in Ray, but, if there's a town to, throw some bale of hay to train for, it would be out there. And, Tell Wade here is just so good at getting such an easy push on a lot of guys. And, he's sometimes even able to use one arm and drive people back and then have that other arm ready to make a move, make a rip, make a swim, what have you. So that strength is overwhelming. And there's a lot of times on his film where he is double teamed and he's able to stand his ground. And I think that that's a huge aspect of strength for me. Agility/footwork. Look, I think that his footwork is very, very consistent. That's why that earns an 8.8 for me. And, as you know, especially at his size, he's able to wield it very, very well. He's able to run into the flats and, make plays there. And, his ability to move laterally across the line to follow a run is just, it looks so easy. It looks so fluid. And, I think that's where that comes in. And his base is just so consistent as well. Whenever he goes to make a tackle, he squares up very well. He drives his feet through tackles. Footwork-wise, he's able to get a lot of moves off. And, I think that when you look at his speed/finesse moves that I do have rated out at 8.1, a lot of that is accompanied because of his agility, and his footwork does make it possible. I mean, look, 6'3", 250. I think that he'd have way more of a hard time trying to make a play here and, beat some of these tackles, but he just doesn't, and I think that that's a huge testament to his agility/footwork. Run stopping wise at an 8.6, I mean, yeah, he just swallows up the run, and part of that is from his strength where he can just stand tackles up, see where the run's going, but he also does a great job at watching their hips and being able to read the lineman and make a play off of that, and his IQ is just incredibly high. And I don't want to leave his power rushing off of here. It's an 8.5. It's still one of his best categories because he has put tailbacks, fullbacks, tackles, guards, centers, you name it. He's put that into the lap of a quarterback. He's pushed that into the run play, and he opens up so many opportunities for his teammates to make a lot of great plays because of his strength and power rushing abilities. Now, in the areas of improvement, obviously pass coverage, my bare minimum, my default is like a 2 or a 3 if you can't do it. He's at a 3.9 here. I would never drop him back. I would never put him in the flats. However, he can get his hands up. He has batted some passes. He does recognize screen plays, and I think that that is a testament in and of itself. And I think that that's actually enough to give him a 4 here in this category. Still would not drop him back into coverage whatsoever, but, he can, quote-unquote, make plays in the pass game that are outside of a sack here. Moving up this ladder, release/first step, I think Coach V said it best when he said that it's just really inconsistent. At a 7.4 here, there's times where I had it at an 8.7 watching certain parts of his film, and then there's times where I would drop it to like a 5 because he just doesn't always get the same step. His stance switches up just a little bit as well, and I think that that has something to do with his first step being inconsistent, is maybe he's developing different stances, but, in his film, it does come off a little bit raw in some areas. So, and then last but not least, I mean, he has an 8.1 in speed/finesse moves. Obviously, that's still a really good grade. That's still a 3-star quality skill. However, I will say that, while his spin move is very fundamentally clean, it could be faster. There's guys ahead of him that have a faster spin move, one in particular where, I mean, if you pay attention to Colorado football, you already know what's coming up at number 1 at this list, but I digress. He does fundamentally understand how to work a spin move. He does get it off. I think it is a consistent tool in his tool belt. It's just something that he could do faster. But, his hand moves both in finesse and speed as well as power rushing is very, very good here. And, in my research here, we've mentioned it a couple times now, and, he is committed to Wyoming. Couldn't really find any other offers here, but Wyoming is ride or die with Tell Wade. And honestly, I think that, first off, brand-wise, I think it's a great fit to have Tell Wade as a Wyoming Cowboy. But, scheme and program-wise, Coach V, what do you think of this fit for Tell Wade and for Wyoming?
Honestly, I love this pickup here. Tell Wade to me was somebody that felt like, an FCS, maybe group of 5 type of guy, and that's what Wyoming is here. He is going to go to Wyoming. He's going to develop. And by the time he is done developing, I assume he's going to redshirt and maybe even take another year before he gets some serious playing time, maybe even another one. He could be a real problem with them because he has a lot of good things going for him. I mean, I think the thing that really stands out for me at his size is that he is definitely stronger than he is for his size. Like, yeah, I've seen plenty of guys who are 6'3", 250, but are they as strong as, someone who is 250? Some are, some aren't. Tel Wade is definitely above that level, in my opinion. And so this is somebody that you're going to get. He does a lot of good things right. And so if you are in a pinch and you need to play him, then you can. But I think the best case scenario here takes a little bit of time to develop, get used to the next level, and then he could be a pretty good rotational guy for them, someone who could give some other teams different looks here, who could stand his ground, who's going to play the run really well. I'm really high on Tel Wade here. I love the fit here with Wyoming. Wyoming always does a pretty good job getting Colorado talent here, and so this is a bit of a sleeper pick, and I wouldn't even say he's a project player. He's somebody who could play after a redshirt or year or two, but I think he's somebody that could have started for some FCS out there, I'm sure. And instead, he's going to a good program in Wyoming, who's a group of 5 school. He's going to develop. He's going to be the best version he can be when he does get playing time. So I'm really high on it. I love the fit. Love that Wyoming, pays attention and came out and got him too, because he's definitely somebody that I would have loved to see at, maybe a CSU or even a University of Northern Colorado. But Cody, what do you think about that? Is that fair to say?
No, I think that's a great assessment. And honestly, I just think that one thing that Wyoming very specifically does with Colorado talent is they find guys that fit their program, right? I think that that's like a huge selling point for them on Colorado talent here. And look, Wyoming, they have some guys in the state of Wyoming, but the pickings can be slim. And so, they have to reach under the door and try and swipe out some guys, especially like with CSU. You got to try and swipe guys away from the Rams. And I think that Tel Wade here is one of those, guys that fell through the cracks of a potential CSU fit to play at Wyoming. And I think that, just with where he is, honestly, I really don't think he's as far away from seeing the field as some may think. Now, we obviously have him rated as a high 2-star, low 3-star kind of guy, with our composite score being a 79.45, knocking on that door. But, with all the things that he already has going for him, Tel Wade is a guy that, depending on who Wyoming schedules early in the season, if they schedule a knockout game here, Tel Wade is somebody that I think could see the field and, could make an impact in a short amount of time, relatively short amount of time.
Yep. No, absolutely agreed. Like I said, I don't think he's a project player going into Wyoming. I think he's a solid prospect. But it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it, And you're right, they do pick up guys who fit their system. They did that when they also picked up that one great linebacker out of Palisade last year, and they're going to switch his position, obviously. But, they know what they're doing, and they get the most out of their guys there, and so I feel good about it. But, yeah, so that's Tel Wade. Cody, are you good if I talk about our third guy on this list here?
Take it away, Coach V.
So we're going to go back to the 5A level, actually for the rest of this list here. But here on the 5A level, we have Thunder Ridge's very own Caden Schaus, the 6'1", 235-pound defensive end, edge rusher. So got to see this guy work out. He first got on our radar when we got to see him work out at this training facility. It's more of an off-season thing.
Shout out OTG.
Yep, shout out OTG. Like you said, more so off-season stuff like conditioning and whatnot. But really got to see him go to work there over at OTG. And he was really impressive. He was definitely a very interesting athlete because you could tell bro was strong as heck. He was extremely powerful, explosive, but also he was very quick and fast, and so he was just a very good blend of speed and power here. And so that's where we first found out about Caden Schaus here, and then we obviously followed him this season. I went to a couple Thunder Ridge games, Mountain Vista, Valor Christian. Cody, you went to a playoff game against Arapahoe, and so he has played and pass rushed against some of the best. But let's go ahead and go down the line here, talk about some of the grades I have here. So for speed and finesse moves, 8.3. Tackling, 8.3. Run stopping, a little bit lower at a 7.7. Power rushing, 8.1. Release first step, 8.5. Agility footwork, 8.6. Hit power, 8.2. Strength, 8.2. Pass coverage is a solid 6. And then size frame, he is at an 8.2. He's a little bit on the shorter end, a little bit on the lighter end, but still a solid 8.2. Altogether, my overall grade for him is a 80.1. For me, he is zero point 0.3 points higher than Tell Wade. And so let's start with the highest grades here. So gave him an 8.6 for agility and footwork and an 8.5 for release first step. Talking about explosive, his first step is extremely explosive. His get off is very good. When he knows that he could just straight pass rush, he is dangerous. He is real lethal off that edge there. And he gets a really good bend too when he's pass rushing, for someone at his size and strength and whatnot, power, he gets a real good bend, real flexible there. And so you love to see that. Along with his agility here, I mean, he is a true sideline to sideline guy. He has some of the best agility that I've seen here, at least on this list. I mean, this is a guy who could probably play middle linebacker. I mean, you'd have to give him a year to adjust and fix his body type and all that stuff, but he is not that far away from being a pretty solid middle linebacker on the next level either. That's just my opinion of Caden Schaus. If you really wanted to go there. So there you go. But regardless, he's a fast dude. He's someone who's really, really quick, and he gets the jump on a lot of tackles. We saw that this last season. And he plays in a pretty tough league too with all those Highlands Ranch teams. So just throwing that out there. But let's talk about his lowest grades. Gave him a 6 for pass coverage, 7.7 for run stopping ability. He wasn't dropped back too much, or really at all, I don't think so, for Thunder Ridge, and so I gave him the default grade of 6. Plus, I feel like he's athletic enough to eventually, be a solid cover guy if you really need to. I mean, it's not that hard. I think he has the athleticism to do that on the next level, and so I'm not super concerned about that 6, to be honest with you. There's just a lack of experience, doing that on a consistent basis. Now, run stopping was a 7.7. It could be better. I think there are definitely times where he doesn't play the gap as well as he could, or funnel guys in as well as he could. On top of that, I also feel like he wants to pass rush, right? He wants to pass rush, and so he's a little trigger happy with that. And so there are times where he kind of has to pull back on that, not be as aggressive, trying to get after the quarterback when it's a run play. And so that's just discipline and, film watching stuff. I think that is fixable right now, and I think that's more of a consistency thing than anything. So I'm not concerned about his ability to stop the run. I think he can do it. It's just doing it on a consistent level and, not getting fooled and whatnot. And so that's important to keep in mind there. But altogether, Caden Schaus, I think, is a very balanced athlete. You don't see that a ton, at least with this edge rusher list, I want to say, because either, they're a power rusher more so or a speed rusher. I think with Caden, he is very much as close to as balanced as you could get. I think he's closer to a speed rusher, but he also has some power to him. He has very powerful hands. When he gets underneath someone's shoulder pads, he is extremely dangerous, and you don't want to do that at all. That's the last thing you want to do, but even then, he's going to get a good push regardless of the leverage and whatnot, and so you love to see that, and I think whoever gets a Caden Schaus here is going to get a balanced athlete that you can really put wherever, not just at edge, but you could put at linebacker or so. Probably not interior defensive line. I guess who knows? But he showed that he could fare relatively well against interior linemen. So there you go. And like I said, this is a very competitive league he plays in. That's not even including the out of league schedule that he has played between playoffs and in the regular season. And so, yeah, there you go. But that's Caden Schaus. Kodey, what are your grades, and what do you think about my evaluation of him?
Yeah, well, I'm going to end up echoing a lot of what you had to say. I'm going to drill through my grades real quick and then dive right into the agility / footwork here. But, going from the top to the bottom here, speed / finesse moves, 8.4. Tackling, 8.3. Run stopping, 8.2. Release/first step, 7.8. Or, no, power rushing, 7.8. My bad. Release/first step, 8.6. I thought that didn't sound right. Agility/footwork, 8.6. Hit power, 7.8. Strength, 8.4. Pass coverage, 4.6. And size/frame, 8.2. Making for my overall grade here being a 78.9. I actually had Tell Wade rated just a hair higher here, but with our composite score, that landed Caden Schaus at a 79.5 and our number 3 spot. But agility/footwork wise, look, he moves so well side to side. And, an entire sidestep is integral to his bag in both the run and the pass game here. Look, he can just hop an entire gap over, because say he's already disrupted one gap and they're trying to go into the cutback lane. He literally just has this fantastic footwork hop here to get into the way there and blow that run up. And, he even does it to eat. It's like a reverse juke, basically, on offensive linemen, guards, tackles, tight ends, where he'll just whoop and get back to the quarterback and put a hurting on that QB there. And yeah, so that's a big part of his bag, and I think that, his first step is a part of that too. Look, if your footwork is able to do that hop, sometimes that hop is the first thing that he does, and he shoots off the line. There was one play that I watched again and again and again. I want to say it was against Highlands Ranch High School, where, he seriously does beat the ball, but it's like I drug it over and over again because I was like, is that an offsides? But the timing is just so close and so well timed that, you could tell that he's a very smart football player in the pass rush game, in the run game, and, does figure teams out rather quickly and can make you pay for it. This is something that was even common against an Arapahoe line that's pretty solid, honestly, through and through. And, he was able to disrupt the passer a lot of the time. He was, an integral part of that pass rush that did eventually end up winning that game for them inside their own red zone, forcing that turnover. And yeah, he was able to do that through good footwork and through a good first step, which I think ties nicely into his speed/finesse moves. I think that his speed is very overwhelming for a lot of guards that just are caught very off guard by him. Not only on his first step/release, but he has a nice hand strike to the shoulder pads to offset linemen where he can tie in a nice swim, a nice rip, and it looks very smooth through and through. Honestly, I even think I could give that an 8.5. So, update 8.5 on that. And obviously changing the other grades just a hair. But yeah, he's just a very smooth player, getting off of the line into the backfield, making you pay both in the run and the pass. And yeah, I think that's just a great way to describe him. He's such a smooth athlete. And yeah, once again, huge shout out to OTG Athlete. That's the name of the facility. And then shout out to our guy Rob, who is athlete success coach here, for putting us on to Caden Schaus and letting us come check out these workouts. And yeah, that's another great way that we come across these players. And it was great getting to see Caden train, and it made a lot of sense come game day the way that he was able to dominate and make plays in the game. But let's transition to maybe some things that he doesn't do super well here. And yeah, we'll start with some of the higher ones here. Look, power rushing, I think that he could just probably expand not only his bag in the power rush game, but I think that he could, I don't know, I just feel like there's something that's not quite there. It's not always super dominant. It's not always, it looks slower. I mean, that makes sense compared to his speed moves, but it looks more thought out. It looks more meticulous, and it doesn't look as instinctual. That's the words I'm looking for here to describe his power rushing. It just doesn't look as natural. And so I think that there is room for improvement there to maybe not have to be something where you have to think about your power rush move or how your power rush is going to evolve over the course of a blocking scheme, but rather than that, just do it and get after it there. In addition to that, I have his hit power as an area of improvement. Look, he can pop people sometimes, don't get me wrong. And, his tackling's at an 8.3. I think that he has a solid tackling there. That's not higher because there are a few plays where he tackles high or gets away with a shoelace tackle. But for the majority of the time, he does a great job of wrapping up and just trapping the ball carrier or the quarterback's arms to their side there. And, that's a huge reason why his tackling is up so high. But hit power wise, there's not really any hits on his film or in game where I was like, oh my god, there are other guys on this list where I'm like, oh jeez, are you going to be able to recover? And like that was a gap with Tell Wade and Caden Schaus, because I saw a Tell Wade hit live where I was like, oh my gosh, is that quarterback okay? And I think that is something that just needs a little bit more or emphasis in his game. Lastly, pass coverage wise, he's at a 4.6. That's actually like one of the higher ones when you're looking at, some of these edge rushers here, because yeah, he can move very well into the flats. He can play the sidelines, and he's very athletic. So that obviously makes that a lot tougher as an offense to get past Caden Schaus. And I trust him to make plays in the screen game. He even did so in that Arapaho game. And that's what lands his pass coverage here at a 4.6. I just wouldn't, I don't know. I just didn't see enough zone coverage, if that makes sense. And they just didn't utilize him that way. And so I just don't feel super comfortable giving him a higher score with something that I haven't seen. The guys here who did score above a 5, because there's only 2 of them, they legitimately played zone coverage, and I was able to witness that. And I think that was key. But yeah, a mild adjustment here, making my overall score a flat 79, Simon's an 80.1, and then PMC's a 79.55. Coach V, there's a lot to like about Caden Schaus, but, maybe he's not getting the interest that I think he deserves here. Before we talk about his recruitment, what do you think of my analysis of his game, and what is going on here? Why do you think he's getting overlooked potentially?
Well, first things first, I definitely agree with most of your analysis there. Do want to add on maybe one of the reasons why he's a little bit more hesitant or not as free-flowing with some of his pass rushing moves is maybe it's because he is overthinking it. And on top of that, he's just thinking of what move he should go to, right? But I think something that will help out with that is just watching more film. And every, tackle is going to be different, but some tackles have different tells and whatnot, which should tell you, hey, it's either a pass or it's a run, or hey, I am either going to set it this way, like, blocking wise, or a different way. And so you as a edge rusher, you just gotta know those things, like, hey, when I'm seeing this, that means he's trying to set up this way for this type of play and whatnot, and this is what I have to counter that with. And it's just research and whatnot, and just getting into that muscle memory and really just practicing that and reacting to that. And that might be reaction processing time, honestly. And so whatever, I'm not super concerned about it. That is something that you could get done with some film work, and that's like maybe a season or 2 thing to do, off-season thing or 2 to do, which is it's not the worst thing to be worried about with Caden Schaus here. Now, he, in my opinion, is definitely I would say he's an FCS guy, group of 5 potentially. Maybe I'm sure there's some Power 5 that would love to use him and develop him eventually, but I think he's more of an FCS type of dude here. But I think maybe one of the reasons he's not getting some of the looks he deserves is because he's a little undersized here. He had to do a lot to get to 235, it felt like, because just looking at past weights from last season and the season before, he put on a good chunk amount of weight, and he's still playing well at that weight. And so that's probably something like, all right, well, this year, he's playing at 235, but last year he was a lot lighter at 220 or whatever, and probably a little bit weaker as well. And so I could understand some of that there. But regardless, I think this is a dude that could at least play on the FCS level. I'm pretty sure of that, Most likely, he's probably going to be a high D2 guy, unfortunately, because it is a little bit late in the recruitment game. But in my opinion, he's somebody that could also go to a JUCO if he wanted to do his time there and then potentially get a higher offer, because I just think this is a guy that, he's real athletic, and he's somebody that has a real good balance to him, and you could really mold into a couple different types of players here. He's at a crossroads going into this next off season or two, I would say. And you as the coach got to decide that for him and, get him into that right spot there. But for now, it comes off as a little ambiguous. Like, okay, he's solid and good at pretty much a lot of things here. Where does he fit with my team and whatnot? Can he hold this weight too at 235? That might be a concern as well. And so I could see some of those, concerns. Obviously, I wouldn't be concerned about it, but, I'm biased. So there you go. But, yeah, I mean, regardless, though, we'll see what happens. He's a next level dude. Kodey, is that fair to say here? I don't feel like I'm overreaching. I feel like he's definitely athletic enough to play for some group of 5 FCS teams.
Yeah, I honestly think that from a recruiting perspective, his size is I think it is what's holding him back, but I think it's blown out of proportion from his recruitment standpoint. I'm not worried about his size at 6'1", 235. Honestly, I think that he could still do a lot of the things that he does at 240. And I trust in him to do that. He's very athletic. That's been a lot of his focus, obviously. But, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more to be excited about than there is to be worried about, if I'm just being, completely honest about it. And, I think that, like you said, he's unfortunately just probably going to be overlooked here. But, I mean, from a production standpoint, he was one of the best defenders on one of the best teams in 5A. And I think that that's something, I think that means something. And, he's been a second team All-State guy. He's got a solid GPA. He's been a captain. They look up to him in the weight room here. And yeah, no, I think that there's a lot to like about Caden here. And looking at his offers here, they're not where they should be, in my opinion here. He has offers in order. He got offered by Fort Lewis first out of Durango, then Western Colorado, which Western does a really good job of sneaking talent into their base here. Then Missouri Western and Black Hills State. All of those are D2, and I think that all of those don't fit the bill on what Caden Schaus is capable of. He's a lean, I think he's a lean 235 here. So I think that there's weight that can be gained. I think that he moves very well at 235. And I think that, I feel like even at the bare minimum, he's a package, rotational pass rusher on the D1 level. And look, that may not sound like a lot, but you think about, hey, it's 3rd and 16, and Caden Schaus can go in there and get a strip sack. And then boom, that could either put you back in the game, that can extend your lead, or what have you. He's an impact player. He's a playmaker on Playmakers Corner. This is a point that I go to over and over again. And, he's done it against some really good talent. He's done it against some solid quarterbacks. And I think that he's proven his worth. And, it's just frustrating to see it overlooked a little bit, especially because we as a state have a nice magnifying glass on this edge rusher class here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, not bad offers either. I personally like the Missouri Western offer. I mean, they have some of the best facilities in all of D2. I think that's important saying that. Also, I'm just going to say this right now. Missouri Western Stadium is basically a carbon copy of the University of Northern Colorado Stadium. It's just in black and yellow. So take that as you will. But, it could be worse. It could be worse. They're a high-level program, and I think if one of these D2s do get a Caden Schaus, they're getting an absolute steal. They're getting somebody who could potentially play day one. Now, is he going to start day one? Probably not. but he could be a rotational guy. He could be a special teams guy. He could do a lot for you, give you some different looks on defense because of how versatile he is. And so I'm not mad at those offers either. At least he is getting some of those offers. But in my opinion, he probably is an FCS guy. I mean, that's just how I see it. So, yeah, there you go. But I don't think we have too much more to say here, right, Kodey?
No.
Fair enough.
And all of that brings us to the number 2 ranked edge rusher according to PMC rankings here. And that is none other than the Iowa commit Chase Brackney out of Cherry Creek High School, who is an absolute mountain of a man and I think is a great fit for this Iowa team. And I think, we could go ahead and start there. Look, he's listed at 6'4", 280 pounds, and after having met him in person and talked to him as well as, take a look at his game, he is a pretty lean 280 pounds. And it's not like he's out of shape or anything. That is a very utilized 280 pounds. And at 6'4", that obviously just makes him a mismatch against a lot of foes here. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into my rankings here and talk about the categories. So in speed/finesse moves here, he scored a 7.9, in tackling an 8.9, run stopping a 9, power rushing a 9, release/first step I have a 7.7, agility/footwork I have an 8.3, hit power 8.7, strength 9.2, pass coverage 4.3, and size/frame 9.4, giving me an overall grade of 82.4 on Chase Brackney. And so talking about the things that he does well, look, he scored over a 9 in 4 categories. Obviously size/frame, that's like the one that you can't really help, but I think it does help that he does wear 280 really, really well. And, at his size, I mean, that's fantastic. That's next level size, obviously. So, there's a little bit of work that he gets there. And then, that tackling skill at an 8.9 is knocking on that door here. So let's go ahead and talk about, the things that kind of all tie together here. And it starts with his strength. Chase Brackney, I called him a mountain of a man, but boy, can he move linemen like an avalanche at times. He can fight through double teams. He can drive linemen into running backs, and you will never see him, falling backwards when tackling a tailback. He is an absolute beast in the trenches here who has such applicable strength and such, it seems almost limitless because of just how strong he is, and it comes so easy to him. But what is strength without technique here is, a question that gets asked. And I think that Brackney here actually has the technique to back it up. He's one of the best hand fighters in this class. His strength and power moves have gone toe-to-toe with the best in the state, both this year and last year. So, when you're able to power rush the way that he does, when you're able to hand fight the way that he does, that's going to land you at a 9 in power rushing just because linemen have tried a variety of ways to block him, and he's just so consistent with shooting his hands out really fast and getting that incredible extension at 6'4" and keeping that distance against the linemen. And, from that position, he can drive them back at times, but he could also utilize lethal rips or, lethal shucks to the left or the right and, find success getting to the tailback. And, he even has a powerful, swim to him. I know that kind of dips into finesse, but the push that he gets on that rib cage of that lineman or on that arm to cause that completely sets them sailing off to the side here and just makes them very, very, unbalanced and they lose that matchup. Now in the run game here, he also does a fantastic job. Obviously utilizing power moves and strength and being able to tackle all helps, but he really does read linemen. He reads formations very, very well. I think of a few plays in particular where he's following the lineman's hips, doesn't get fooled on counters or reverses, and still makes the play. He's also able to stand up linemen very, very easily with that long reach, get his eyes in the backfield, figure out where it's going, and then track it down from there. Even when runs go way outside of him or on the other side of the field, he knows where the play is going most of the time before the play is even happening. So I think that all of those are things of note that he does really well. Tackling wise, he's a very consistent tackler. He's also someone who drops the hammer and can really just, he can knock people out. And I think that that's something worth noting. And he has a nice little burst of acceleration into a hit at his size that really just makes him incredibly dangerous here. Now, as we start to get into some of his, quote, lower categories here, his agility / footwork, I still have an 8.3. I think that he utilizes his feet very, very well. I think that he moves extremely, extremely well, especially at 6'4", 280 pounds. A lot of other guys will only exclusively be able to lumber around the field, and that is not how Chase Brackney plays. He can move around the field, he can turn his hips, and he can get to places that maybe he doesn't need to make the play every time, but, offers great support from, scraping and things like that. As far as areas of improvement go, look, he has a 7.9 in speed / finesse move. It's not necessarily, his game or his bag. The things that he does show, he does solid, and I think that scoring a 7.9 in that category is still very, very respectable, especially for the prototype of a player of Chase Brackney's build. I think that, he does a great job of, like I said, utilizing his footwork a little bit to get into that backfield and to make plays. But there's not quite as extensive of a bag. The moves don't happen super duper fast. Like, he's not really going to hit you with like a crazy spin move and, burn you that way. So I think that those are things to consider here when looking at Chase Brackney, the prospect. And then last but not least, pass coverage, I have it at a 4.3. Look, he has a really big, actually I'm going to put it at a 4.2 here. He has a really big reach and wingspan, so he can break up some passes in the air, as well as he even makes some plays in the swing pass game and stuff like that. But I would not drop him back into coverage if my life depended on it. It would not go the best, I'd say. And I think that's just kind of where he's at as a player. He's more or less, I'd say, a 3-4 D-end edge kind of guy. Just because, you don't see him standing all that much. When he does, it's not the smoothest or the fastest. But as far as just being an absolute force, being an absolute ox, at the end position, and being able to get a push across multiple linemen, being able to read plays and impact the game in that way is very, very important, and a huge reason why, he collected the offers that he did and eventually committed where he did. But Coach V, I don't want to take everything here. Granted, I talked about a lot, but, my overall grade here at 82.3 for Chase Brackney. What is your overall grade, and how did you get there?
Yeah, so definitely on the same page with a lot of things. I'll start with my overall grade. Gave him an 82.1, and then let's talk about the grades that I specifically gave him. In speed and finesse move, gave him a 7.6, tackling 8.8, run stopping 8.9, power rushing 9, release first step 8, agility footwork was an 8.2, hit power a solid 8.8, strength was a 9, pass coverage was a 5 here. I believe it's the lowest on this list next to Tell Wade, to be honest with you. And then size and frame, 8.8 here for that overall grade of an 82.1. I am just going to put this out there before I talk about my evaluation here. I definitely agree with you that he's probably more of a 3-4 defensive end on the next level. On the high school level, though, he definitely played on the edge a lot. Opposite of his counterpart here, Blake Purchase, just throwing that out there. And so he was definitely playing on the edge, and so we're classifying him as an edge rusher. On the next level, he's probably a defensive tackle interior guy. Think like Cam Hayward of the Steelers or even J.J. Watt. I think that's a solid comparison there. But he's probably an inside guy. I think the agility just isn't quite there. And if, he wants to get there, which I think he could, he'd probably have to lean up by 10 to 15 pounds. And so that's why his size and frame isn't a 9 and all that stuff. That's why his agility is only an 8.2. But let's talk about some of the things that he does really well in his highest grades here. So his highest grade is a 9 in strength and power rushing. And then on top of that, I gave him an 8.9 in run stopping. I think that really represents what kind of edge rusher, edge player he is. I mean, he's somebody that's going to take control of the line of scrimmage, and he's not going to let up any ground. He's going to get a real powerful push, and he's going to throw dudes around and really control that line of scrimmage on his side over there. We got to watch him over these last 2 years primarily here. And I would say last year, there were plenty of instances he went against top-tier guys. I'm looking at Grandview, who have 2 tackles in Zach Henning and Walters as well, who are both next-level guys. Henning going to Washington, so he's a D1 Power 5 guy right there. Walters, I'm sure, will go somewhere. I know Arapaho has a kid, and Matthew Green, who's a next-level guy as well. And then, obviously, he went up against that Valor offensive line, which featured Jake Michaela, who was our number 1 offensive tackle last year. He's off at Stanford, and the biggest thing with Jake Michaela was that he has extremely powerful hands. He's someone that could really control dudes and neutralize them. And against Chase Brackney, Chase got him a couple times. I mean, it kind of looked like they went back and forth, to be completely honest with you. But for the most part, Chase really took advantage of that matchup, and he did a good job against Jake for the most part, I would say, in that state championship game last year. On top of that, you look at some of the other guys on the line. I believe Valor had a center who was our second rated interior lineman last year as well, and in those matchups he looked solid against him. Also Tanner Morley, who is on that line, he's graduating this year. He's going to CSU now. He was over there as well. All those guys are powerful dudes, like dudes who have a lot of power to them. And when it came down to it, Chase Brackney was simply winning. That's what matters in this game here, winning your matchup. And he did that a lot, and he dominated a lot. And so just looking at all those instances against next level guys, against D1 guys, Power 5 dudes who are power based, in my opinion, was a very green flag, because he showed that he was stronger than some of them, that he could get the edge on a lot of them with his precise moves, because I do want to shout out his hand fighting. He may not have the fastest hands, but it's pretty precise, and when he gets his hands on you and he puts you in a little blender there, it sucks, because he just controls you, because that's how powerful he is. He's a big dude. He's stronger than his own frame, I would say, as well. And so he just does such a good job controlling that line of scrimmage, being really disciplined as well. Like I said, in some of these past evaluations, there are some guys that, are a little trigger happy, that you could tell they really just want to pass rush, and that puts them in weird positions when stopping the run. With Chase here, he recognizes plays really well. That goes a long way in that run stopping category. And so he knows when to pass rush and when to stop the run, just plain and simple there. He has shown that over these last 2 years for sure. And I mean, there's just a lot of film to look at, just a lot of examples of him just doing a good job of recognizing against very good talents and offenses as well. So love to see that. That's his brand of football. He's a powerful dude. Now, some of his lower grades here, gave him a 5 in pass coverage. Am I going to drop him back? No, I'm not. Is he going to get some, is he going to bat some balls and stuff and be a little disruptive when he can? Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you can. He has done it before, like you said, Kodey. And, I mean, that play recognition, he knows what he's doing and knows how to position himself to at least disrupt the play if he's not getting pressure or sacking the quarterback. So you love to see that. But you're not going to drop him into coverage, really, and expect him to cover a tight end or God, or a slot receiver or a running back. That's just not what he does. Like I said, on the next level, he's probably going to play on the interior line anyway, so they're not really going to ask him to do that unless it's some sort of zone blitz, and usually that zone is pretty manageable to cover. So, boom, that's that. Now his other lowest grade is speed and finesse moves. I am grading him as an edge rusher, but if he was graded as a defensive tackle, interior tackle, this grade would be a lot higher. Just going to throw that out there. But as an edge rusher, I kind of think he could lean up a little bit. If he is going to play edge, be like an outside linebacker or a 4-3 defensive end, I kind of feel like he needs to lean up a little bit. You're going to lose some of that weight that you could throw around, but you're going to get faster. You're going to get more agile. And he's still agile enough at his weight and frame and whatnot. But I think for a next level player that is going to play at a Power 5 school, you got to lean up just a little bit here. You can't just rely on your strength. Be closer to balance than anything. Not exactly balanced. You don't have to exactly be balanced. So there you go. That's what I think about Chase Brackney here. I think he's an excellent football player. I mean, he's part of the dynasty that is Cherry Creek football, and he's a big part of that, just being able to hold it down. And Cherry Creek, they have an excellent history of having two great pass rushers here. But Kodey, what do you think about that evaluation? Is that fair to say about him that he's more of a J.J. Watt, Cam Hayward type on the next level?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fair. And I also think that it's fair that, we kind of do encourage him to speed up in some ways regardless, because having more speed never hurt anybody. And I think that would come with maybe a little bit of a drop in pounds. But, I think that what he's able to accomplish right now, the size that he's at, and, I think that the fit that he has on the next level at an Iowa program that prides itself, on being, a tough, grinded out, heavy defense culture kind of program. I think that that's a great fit for Chase Brackney, who, he had a couple of options. He had offers to New Mexico State, Nebraska, CSU, and CU, and ended up landing at Iowa, where I think that his abilities will be utilized very well. I think that they could even be a little bit versatile with him. If they run multiple front where they have, some 3 down lineman fronts, some 4 down lineman fronts, those are situations where you might find him as, interior defensive tackle 2, or, maybe on that edge, in that 5 gap there, protecting that, and, allowing these linebackers more free reign, because I think he's going to draw double teams even on the next level here, or maybe even more so on the next level, where, he'll have more of an opportunity to be that guy on the program. And, I mean, look, when people were facing Creek for these past couple of years, it was pick your poison. Do you let big old Chase Brackney absolutely murder your running back, or do you leave your quarterback out to dry against the likes of other great defenders on this defense? So, when you have one part of a losing formula for opposing teams on that defensive line, at that edge position, at that defensive end position, it doesn't, it's not a great look for opposing teams. And I think that legacy part is important as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, by the way, going to Iowa, I know they're mostly known for, what they do with offensive linemen and tight ends, too. It's kind of tight end if you ask me. That's just what I think. But, they will get the most out of Chase Brackney over there. Trust me, they will, because I think he just really fits into that program. And, he is just one of those strong, like Midwest type of dudes out there that they love to recruit. That's going to play in a very competitive conference in that Big Ten against, the likes of, it's the Big Ten. I know we literally talked about this 2 days ago, right, Kodey?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just asking, but he's going to play against the likes of Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Jesus, and so you need those type of dudes that are going to hold it down. Can't just be all finesse, because I'll guarantee you when it's cold and it's snowing and, everything's feeling like it's freezing up and whatnot, you're going to need some power. You're going to need somebody to control that line. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that's just going to fit in, be a very good rotational guy, and probably eventually a starter too, But when I think of a Chase Brackney over at Iowa, I think of somebody that could potentially contribute right away. I mean, most likely he's going to redshirt, He's going to redshirt. They're going to figure out what they want to do with him, whether it's, hey, are we going to have you on the interior, a mix, or whatever? What do we got to do with your body to get you there? And then after that, just learning the playbook and stuff, I think he could definitely see some play time relatively soon. I mean, I think he's at least a 2-year guy. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's absolutely a 2-year guy. I think that, especially in the line where you get so many rotations in there, you want to keep your defensive linemen fresh, and you're going against talented squads, whether you're facing teams, in the Big Ten East or whether you're in the Big Ten West, you're going to have talented athletes that you're going up against. I mean, look, you got to face Wisconsin, and they always it seems like they always have a running back and whatnot, and, those defensive linemen, they're going to get work, and the more versatile you are, the easier it is to get you in. Look, he already has that next level size, which I think is a great advantage heading into your first year of school here. And, should some injuries pop up or anything like that, you never know in the trenches, especially. I feel like that's a position where a guy of Chase Brackney's caliber could see even early action. I'd hope not for eligibility's sake, because I really think that, high-end potential here for Chase Brackney does involve a professional or semi-professional level of football. I really do think that.
Yeah, no, I could see it for sure. I mean, he's talented enough. He has the size, which, I mean, you can't teach that. You can't teach 6'4", 280, and he puts on weight really well, and he's only getting stronger too. And so I could definitely see that in the future for him. But, for now, we'll focus on what's ahead, and that's Iowa, and I think he'll get his snaps and make the most out of it over there. So we'll definitely see, but definitely one of the best edge rushers this state has seen. Even for a guy who, is not really gonna play edge rusher on the next level, it's really impressive that at his height, weight, frame, everything, that he was able to be as successful as he was on this level, because it's not like he's going against guys that can't block at all and he's just dominating 5'10" offensive tackles. He's playing 5A football where it feels like every 5A team, especially in the Centennial League, has a premier left tackle. Know what I mean, Kodey?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, yeah, I know about that Centennial League, and, I think that it's worth noting, too, looking at our grades, or at least comparing it to last year, that Chase Brackney would have been the number 1 prospect in last year's class, because I have those grades pulled up, and, I think that he's just a really, really interesting prospect coming out of Cherry Creek here.
Yes, absolutely. Shout out to his little brother, Kane Brackney, by the way. We got to watch him ball out on the middle school level last year. Well, it had to have been last year, so there you go. But if there's nothing else more to say here, Kodey, do you mind if I talk about some honorable mentions here before we talk about our number 1 guy?
Please do.
Okay, so we have a lot of honorable mentions. We have a ton. Morgan Trebet out of Eden. He played edge rusher on this level, but he's going to go to CSU as a long snapper. I just wanted to throw that out there. You also have Dom Butts out of Severance, that big 6'5", 6'6", 240-pound defensive end. He is going to Northern Colorado, or at least he's committed there as of right now. We'll see what happens with him, but he was really good. I just felt like he's a little bit more of a project player than anything. Still really talented. There's also Garrett Keeler out of Broomfield. You have Theo Frericks out of Fossil Ridge. We also have Javion Smith-Combs from this Cherry Creek team. I believe he is committed to CSU as well. He's a really good edge rusher. He was in that rotation for Cherry Creek. We kind of just both felt like he's a little bit more raw than these other guys here. He's somebody that could use some development, but at that frame, 6'6", 240, he's definitely talented enough. There's Will Adams out of Columbine. There's Rocky Shields, who I believe played edge rusher last year, but is going to be recruited as a defensive tackle more so. And so be on the lookout for that interior D tackle list. And then there's Russ Woodward, who I want to mention here for Evergreen. He has been recruited by D1s to play edge rusher, offensive line, and whatnot. He is somebody that we felt like could have been probably number 3 on this list here. According to our grades and whatnot, that would push some other guys down. And just the way we do these, we try to not double dip, and so we just try to project like where we feel like they're going to play, what position they're going to play on the next level here. If there are 2 positions that we have to choose between. And so for Russ here, we are going to evaluate him as an offensive lineman, specifically as an offensive tackle. So he will for sure be on that list somewhere. So be on the lookout for that as well. And also the reason we do that, by the way, because I just realized I didn't say why, is because we want to spotlight as many dudes as possible. Because then, what's the point of evaluating one guy at receiver and at safety as well, when they're only going to play one position on the next level? Unless you're like Travis Hunter, but even then, he only really played one position on the next level. So, boom, there you go there. Kodey, are there any other honorable mentions you have / notes you have about some of these guys here that we considered?
Yeah, I mean, look, all these guys are talented in their own way. I got to meet Garrett Keeler following Broomfield's championship win. Very good dude, had a solid performance in that championship game as well. So, he's got some things going for him. Russ, yeah, I mean, look, it was really tough deciding which way to put him, but I really think that Russ Woodward, that is, out of Evergreen, is one of the best athletes that we have seen two-way in this state, at least in our time evaluating. And it was really hard. Look, defensively, his agility and footwork took major strides from his junior year, and strength-wise, he maintains ground despite constantly being double-teamed. And, I know that defensive line is a lot more fun than offensive line, from what I've gathered at least. But, Russ, the world is yours, but we will be doubling back for you. But yeah, I guess it's worth mentioning that had we considered Woodward here, he would have had a total PMC grade of 80.25. And, yeah, he was an absolute blast to watch on film. Javion Smith-Combs, shout out to him. Shout out for listening to the show, Javion. I know that he's one of our continuous listeners and is a PMC fam guy, and congrats on that commitment to CSU and the season that you had to turn up there. And I think that ceiling-wise, Javion Smith-Combs has a lot of growth and, potential ahead of him as well. Look, Morgan Trebet, obviously PMC fam. And, this Fossil Ridge squad, this is 2 years in a row where they've had some guys who've produced on that defensive line. You got Nathan Hallmark of last year and, Fredericks this year. So I think that may be something that as Fossil Ridge continues to grow as a program and find more success, that may be something to monitor. But outside of that, I think that there's definitely time to... Oh, and by the way, look, just want to reemphasize / emphasize that on the interior of the defensive line, we will be looking at those guys at another time as well. So just stay tuned for that. But Coach V, I know I'm excited, you're excited, the listeners are excited. For those who know, they already know, but please go ahead and introduce our number 1 edge rusher in the class of 2023.
Yes, so the number 1 edge rusher out of Colorado in the class of 2023 is the 4-star Oregon commit for now, Blake Purchase out of Cherry Creek here. Look, I'm going to throw this out there. It might be controversial to some because there are, some other talented 4-star guys in this state. But I think Blake Purchase is the best football player in the state, period, regardless of levels right now. And he's going to be leaving because he's going to be graduating and whatnot. Leaving with four really state titles, which is absolutely insane. I mean, I guess Chase Brackney is also leaving with 4 state titles as well. But Blake Purchase is going to be leaving with 4 state titles. He is the best football player in Colorado. I don't only think that, but some other people do. I'm not going to name drop them now, but just throwing that out there. Look, this kid is a beast. I'm just going to spoil it, but he is the new highest rated player in PMC history, at least as of right now when we are doing this. The first year we didn't have grades, and so we'll probably go back and regrade that, which is very ironic because this is the first time that 2 brothers have become number 1 on our top 5 list. His brother Miles Purchase was our number 1 corner back a couple years ago when we first started as well. And so this is huge. Also, this is the second time that you have 2 edge rushers, 2 defensive linemen from Cherry Creek taking 1 and 2. A couple years ago with Arden Walker and Malik, we had 2 of those Cherry Creek guys at the top. So this is just showing off how dominant Cherry Creek is, to be honest with you. But let's go ahead and go down the line, evaluate him here real quick. Like I said, overall grade is at an 88.1 for me here. He's the highest rated player that we've done so far, that I've done so far here. Speed and finesse moves 9.3, tackling 8.8, run stopping 9, power rushing 8.5, release first step is a 9, agility footwork, felt good about this, 9.4, hip power 8.7, strength 8.6, pass coverage 8.3, size and frame a solid 8.5 for an overall grade of 88.1. By the way, he is listed at 6'3", 240, probably a little bit closer to 6'2", 240. I've seen that half mark there on and off, but let's just say 6'3", 240 here. And he's an absolute beast. His highest grades here, and there are a lot of high grades here, is his 9.3 for speed and finesse moves and 9.4 for agility and footwork. This is a fast linebacker. He is extremely fast. There is no running back on this level, I feel like, that could have beat him to the outside because he is that fast. He outruns some of those dudes for sure. A lot of those dudes, I'd probably say 90% of them. You watch him against that 4-star Gavin Sawchuk last year, and he shut him down straight up. He couldn't get around him straight up. That's how it was. And so that's where that agility and footwork comes in. Also that speed and finesse. I mean, coming off this edge here, and this year specifically, his senior year, I feel like they really asked him to just pass rush, like, hey, don't worry about dropping back in coverage and stuff like that, even though they did last year in the past couple years. This year, it was more like, hey, just let loose. Go get the quarterback, and that's what he did. And there was not a single lineman that could stop him. And there were many teams that tried to scheme for him, that tried to chip him and double team him, and he just continuously beat them over and over again, whether it's one-on-one. If it's one-on-one, it might as well be unblocked almost, to be honest with you. So there you go. That didn't really work out a lot. Even if he was double teamed, he was still screaming off that edge. Triple teamed, double teamed, then chipped. I mean, he was unstoppable off that edge. He's just so fast. That first step is truly elite. He's at a 9 there, by the way. And just coming off that edge, he really holds it down with his speed and agility. But also, he's pretty strong, too. He has some power and strength to him. He has a nice blend, I would say, and he carries it well at his 240-pound frame, putting on more weight this year compared to the last couple years, obviously, which I feel like was probably a big concern, like, going into this year. Like, okay, he's heavier. Is he going to still have that athleticism? The answer is a resounding yes. He has a lot of that and more, and I think there's even some room to grow still there. So there you go. So that's his strengths there. I mean, he's strong in a lot of things, but I think that really makes his brand of football. He's a fast linebacker who is really hard to guard coming off that edge. So there you go. Now, his lowest grades, I gave him an 8.5 in power rushing, 8.3 in pass coverage. These aren't really weaknesses, to be honest with you. It's just things that, he doesn't do as much. With power rushing, he definitely has a bag of power, of pass rushing moves that do include some power moves here as well. Is it really his go-to? Not really. I mean, he could probably do a better job getting leverage on a more consistent basis when he does choose to power rush, which, like I said, is more of a secondary tool thing than a primary tool when considering what power or what pass rushing moves he wants to use in those situations, which is fine. I think that's just something that's going to have to get more developed here, and he will develop as he gets heavier, as he gets stronger. Pass coverage this year, like I said, he was asked to pass rush. He wasn't really asked to drop back and do too much of that. But if you look at past year's film, looking at last year specifically, there were plenty of times they dropped him in a zone, and they were very comfortable doing that and mixing up the coverage, and he showed that he could be a very good cover linebacker as well. And so on the next level, if he wants to be a 4-3 outside linebacker or whatever, I think he could do it, just as much as he could be a 3-4 outside linebacker. So gotta love the versatility there. He has good hands, and once he gets the ball in his hands, I mean, he is, first off, tough to bring down, but like I said, he's fast as well, so you also have the threat of him housing it, which I feel like is a very valid fear to have if you're an offensive coordinator, honestly. And so this is a guy that could drop back into coverage. Just didn't see it as much this year, and also, just throwing this out there, didn't really see him in man-to-man coverage a whole lot, even though I'm sure he could do it as well. So that's a little bit of a, that's a little bit of a knock here. Just a little bit, not a whole much. He still has an 8.3, still rated as good as a 3-star, but with the potential to do more, though. So there you go. Altogether, Blake Purchase, he is a generational talent. He's a great athlete here. Maybe even better than his, older brother, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. Regardless, he belongs on the Power 5 level, and this is a guy that could do it all for you, and he is every defensive coordinator's dream. Just being honest there. Kodey, is that fair to say, and what do you think about Blake Purchase?
Well, good thing Blake is really good at a lot of different things because, man, you almost took everything. But no, Blake is the highest graded prospect that we have taken a look at so far, and I think that it shows in a variety of ways here. I mean, look, he has 9s in 3 categories for me, and then he's knocking on that 9, in, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5 other categories. So, he is just a very solid overall player. And yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go through my rankings here real quick and then go through my summary and highlights. So speed finesse moves, 9.2. Tackling, 8.9. Run stopping, 8.9. Power rushing, 8.8. Release/first step, 9. Agility/footwork, 9.4. Hit power, 8.9. Strength, 8.9. Pass coverage, 8.6. Size/frame, 8.5, making his lowest categories pass coverage and size/frame, but even his pass coverage I think is pretty comparable to a 3-star. It's the highest rating on this list, and he's a true edge versus, the next highest guy did play a lot more linebacker and did have a lot more film. But I mean, look, you look at his junior year and everything that he was able to do, going into hook zones, buzzing the flat, occasionally following fullbacks or running backs and breaking up passes and flats against tight ends. Like, he really was a force in the pass game and somebody that you had to avoid. In his 3 years of, high school football, he does have 3 interceptions as an edge player. He does have, 16 pass deflections, 7 from his junior year, and still 8 from this year because I factor in batting passes at the line. And, that is something that he does. He has an excellent vertical here. I really think he's closer to 6'4" than 6'3", personally, up close and then just watching from a distance as well. And look, all these things, and this is still his second lowest category for me. This is his second lowest category as pass coverage, and all I did just now was rave about it because, I mean, look, I can't give him I don't want him to line up against like a slot receiver or like play a deep zone, but for what an edge rusher is asked to do, he's dang near perfect at it and does a fantastic job. He has great awareness, absurd athleticism and reach and wingspan and verticality to just make his area of impact, his physical space of impact, so large. And yeah, I'm just blown away at Blake Purchase here. 6'3", 240. Honestly, size frame, I think it's solid. He could get bigger, I guess, as long as he's not losing a ton of speed, or maybe he still has like an inch to grow or something there. But really, I mean, it's a solid frame. Doesn't leave me too much to complain about. So then climbing up here, 8.8 in power rushing. Look, before Saturday's game, I want to say that I was probably in the same ballpark as Coach V with like a 8.5, 8.6. But then he put a lineman who, I mean, granted, this lineman, to be fair, is a bit on the younger side. I don't want to throw them under the bus here. But this lineman does have offers to Penn State as well as CU. And Blake just shoved him, just trucked him, went over him, and then rocked the quarterback and forced a fumble that set up Cherry Creek's first points of the game. And that's not really his bag. His bag is not power rushing. He's not a bull rush kind of guy all the time. But knowing that he still has it, and he still has that, man, he's a 9 in strength. I ain't even going to play. He's a 9 in strength instead of an 8.9. And yeah, he has those capabilities to do those things. So, and then hit power. He's somebody who's absolutely just blasted a handful of quarterbacks as well as tailbacks in the backfield. It's still at an 8.9. It's not like he's constantly sending people to the infirmary or anything like that, but he is just such a sound tackler at that 8.9. He's a strong dude at that 9 strength, and you combine those together, and he puts together hits where he does tackle through people pretty constantly. Is his hit power something that he could probably work on making more consistent? Yeah, probably, but consistency is the difference between this being an 8.9 and probably like a 9.3, because the ceiling on this hit power is very, very high with that frame, with that technique, with that strength. Continuing to try and climb up this list here that's taken me maybe a while, but, run stopping wise, he does a great job of standing up his, opposing linemen, making reads, and looking into the backfield. He's especially dangerous because, one aspect of his run stopping is that runs don't go to him. He is getting triple teamed in the run game in the state championship game. He is getting ran away from in the state championship game because, as Coach V said earlier, speed-wise, you're just not going to beat him to the edge. And then, on top of that, he does a great job of, squaring up. And when a quarterback's running a read option, they're not going to run Blake Purchase's way. Are you absurd? And he also gets enough pressure to force the issue on the read option and can tackle the running back on read option plays. He can, if the quarterback gets, frantic and tries to pull themselves, they are in for a nightmare level hit for Blake Purchase. So, his run stopping conventionally is very, very solid and top notch. But, his run stopping when it comes to, the read option, more that modern level, is really good. And then you throw in the fact that he can jump if it's an RPO and bat passes into the air and get deflections that turn into interceptions. That just makes him a, almost like a 3-level dangerous player here. Already kind of talked about his tackling at that 8.9. Tackles through, does a great job of wrapping up. He absolutely pins quarterbacks' arms to their sides there, setting it up for, punching the ball out. But on top of that, when he does tackle, he does a great job of getting a hand on the ball. He's able to make great strips. And, it's just a force in the backfield. And I haven't even gotten to the parts that I really, really like here. Look, release/first step, I have that at a 9. He has a fantastic first step here. Look, I'd say the only thing is maybe, even then, he times the snap really well. He can get a little ambitious and get drawn offsides very rarely. But, if my edge rusher gets called for offsides once or twice in a game, but he has like 6 hurries and, gets a few sacks and forces turnovers, that's something I can live with. And Blake Purchase does exactly that. So, that first step is very, very lethal, very, very fast. Very few, if any, tackles in this state have combated it or can combat it. And I think that's, that means a lot for Blake because he's constantly going against very high-level, high-caliber tackles just, like we talked about in the Chase Brackney segment, same thing applies here in that Centennial League as well as, in that state championship over the past few years, getting to go against some very, very solid offensive tackles. Further on with that, speed/finesse moves. Look, he has the whole bag. He has a sweet spin move. He has a very pretty swim move. He has a, horrifying rip move. He really has it all. And footwork-wise, he can make linemen dance as well, where he can give them, jabs to the inside, go outside, get to the quarterback that way, jab outside, spin, cut, dip, rip, inside, and, get to the running back that way. And it's applicable in every sense of the word. And as Coach V stressed over and over and over again, he is just so freaking fast. It's a nightmare to try and keep up with him. So, I think that I just think that is something worth noting. And, I would be interested to know what exactly his 40-yard dash time is. But I know it would blow you away for somebody who's, 6'3", 240 pounds, and maybe even 6'4", 240 pounds, honestly. He's huge. But, he's somebody who can chase running backs down from across the field. He takes good angles as well. Because, they're not running to his side of the field because you're never going to beat him to the sideline. Double, triple team, what have you. He's going to get there, and he's going to force that issue back inside. And then, following that, at the number 1 rated category for myself here, and, echoing Coach V's number 1 category as well, is that agility/footwork. He's just a fantastic athlete. Not only does he do a lot of these little things right, does he have good technique, does he have good footwork and whatnot, but, agility-wise, there's nothing that he really can't do. He's really good at opening up his hips. He's really good at shifting. He works very, very well laterally, and I think that's evidenced in, his pass coverage a little bit. And I mean, all in all, Purchase has the entire package here. His spin moves and footwork combined with agility makes him an unblockable force who has time and time again beat top recruits in the state in pass rush and run defend. His tackling is pristine, and he can drop the hammer on people. He showed his junior year that he could do more than enough in the passing game, both in zone and batting passes with an incredible, vertical and anticipation of the pass. And, as far as improvements go, it's kind of nitpicky, but getting a hair stronger and developing a more consistent bull rush is kind of all I got for him. And you add all this up, you have, like Coach V said, spoiler alert, our number 1 prospect here. I landed at an 89.2. Coach V landed at an 88.1 for an 88.65 rating of Blake Purchase here. And, that's us even being a little bit hard on him because according to 247 Sports Composite, he is a 95.7, as in 9057, that is. But, Blake Purchase here, absolutely incredible athlete. Very, very few things that he could really work on. But, very, very talented player and a very highly recruited player here. Coach V, can I just talk about all of the schools that he had offers to before we talk a little bit more in depth about, his current commitment as of December 8th, 2022?
Yeah, go for it. We know what it's going to come down to, but go ahead and list all the schools that offered him. Obviously, he was a 4-star guy, so yeah.
Yeah, the list is quite extensive, but, I like reading through stuff like this because Coloradans can ball, and all of these schools recognized it, starting with Washington State, USC, UNLV, Texas Tech, U of T, Oregon State, OU, gosh dang it, both of our rooting for schools here swung and missed, which is a bit tough, but I digress. Notre Dame, Nebraska, Marshall, Kansas. Poor Logan Brantley couldn't quite make that sell. CSU, CU, Arizona State, Washington, Iowa State, where his older brother Miles is, Cal, and Coach V, where currently is Blake Purchase heading, or at least has committed to.
I think I already said this, but he is currently committed to the University of Oregon here. as of December 8th, 2022. But, I think we got to talk about it. We really don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about news that happen on the collegiate level, at least while it happens, unfortunately, which really sucks. And so I'd really like to take the opportunity to speculate a little bit now, because until he signs those papers, we'll see. But obviously, he is committed to Oregon, right? Which is, that's good. Oregon right now, just looking at their recruiting class as of the 8th, and this isn't including, it's not including transfers. This is just guys from high school. They don't have another edge rusher like Blake Purchase coming. They have a lot of defensive linemen. These guys are like most definitely defensive tackles, though. I'm just looking at them. Terrence Green out of Cywood, shout out Cypress, Texas. Mari Washington out of Chandler. That's a team that Cherry Creek actually played last year. Johnny Bowens out of Judson. Converse, Texas. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. That sounds really disrespectful, but just my Texas bias there. So they don't really have an edge rusher that is on his level. Now, the next closest guy is this oh my gosh, I'm gonna butcher it. He's a 3-star out of Eugene, Oregon from Sheldon High School, so he's a hometown guy. That's the next closest guy to Blake Purchase, but as of right now, they don't have a guy like Blake Purchase in this recruiting class. Now, on the roster and whatnot, I'm sure they got dudes, who could do some of those things, because it is Oregon. It is the University of Oregon. They're a premier program, in my opinion, and so they're going to just get guys like that. And so we'll see what that playing time's looking like. Now, I do have Colorado's recruiting class pulled up, and this class is definitely going to change because already, as of right now, reports are coming out about the CU coaching staff pulling offers, and even if guys are committed, they are pulling that, and that is happening on a very consistent basis, it sounds like. And so we'll see if this stands right now, but as of right now, they don't have any 3 stars, or sorry, any 4 stars committed to the school. And as far as transfers and whatnot, obviously you have Shadur Sanders, probably Travis Hunter as well. Both were 4-star and 5 stars in their own classes, but that hasn't been official yet, because I'm sure they just haven't went through all of that yet. But they are coming, I'm assuming. And so as of right now, Blake Purchase is committed to Oregon, but with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders coming to CU, I want to say there's at least a door open to Blake potentially coming to CU and flipping when it comes time to truly commit and sign those papers. Kodey, what do you think about that? Let's just be honest. Does Colorado have a guy like Blake Purchase on the roster or even in the recruiting class right now, in your opinion?
No. And I just don't think that there's a lot of guys like Blake Purchase, just in general. He's one of the most dominant players in the country. He's a 4-star for a reason. And yeah, I just think that, with the changes at CU, and I'm pretty sure that he was even quoted as saying, like, hey, there is a chance that, there's a chance that I'd be considering if Deion came. And Deion is here. He's in Boulder. He's at Folsom. And, Blake Purchase is here as well. So, I think that's something interesting. And, look, as far as, quote, linebacker, that's what he's listed at here. He's ranked 32nd in the nation. And so I think that is a Coach Prime eligible level guy as far as recruits go. And he said we're bringing in 4 or 5-star recruits, Coach Prime, that is. And what do you know? Blake Purchase, he's a 4-star guy, isn't he, Simon? So I'd say that match seems like a pretty easy one to make. So
yes, it is. He's in your own backyard, right? With Coach Prime coming to Colorado, I'm just gonna be honest. I don't expect him to recruit the entire state, but I expect him to keep the top talents here, though. I'm just going to be real with you. And Blake Purchase is one of those guys, and I do have the top edge rushers in this 2023 class pulled up right now. And so pretty much all the top guys Blake Purchase included are committed. That's verbally, that is. You do have a couple exceptions here. The top guy, Keon Keeley, he's a 5-star. It has him leaning towards Bama, unless Coach Prime pulls him, and he lives in Tampa, Florida, by the way. Then I don't know if you're going to get too many guys like him. You also have Mateo Uyunglele, who's DJ Uyunglele, the former Clemson quarterback now. He's in the transfer portal, but he's his brother. He's an edge rusher at 6'5", 265. Both of those guys are 5-stars. They're uncommitted as of right now. And so unless he pulls one of those guys and does not need a Blake Purchase, then I don't see any reason why you don't try. Because you got to think about it this way. You're going to have to play against him in the Pac-12. That's just what it's going to have to come down to, because I don't think Oregon is a part of that deal with USC and UCLA to go to the Big Ten here in a couple years. Yeah, I don't think so. So it's going to be a battle of the two big dogs here in the Pac-12, assuming it stays together here and whatnot. And it's going to be CU and Oregon. Do you want to see him line up against your guys? The answer is no. And so, like I said, unless you could get one of these 5-stars, then I think the easy thing to do is to go ahead and offer Blake Purchase, go talk to him. There are a couple other 4-stars that are slightly ranked above him, at least according to 24/7 Sports, that are not committed. But, they live in Alabama and whatnot. Blake is here in your own backyard. So there really is no excuse to at least make a run for it.
Well, and he's played in Colorado, and he's used to the elevation. There are plenty of athletes from coast to coast that are going to have to, maybe make that adaptation. But as far as guys who are fast and have a motor and the endurance to keep that motor up, Purchase has got to be near the top of that list, with the elevation considered as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's a perfect fit for Colorado. On top of that, I'm just going to throw this out there. I know he is listed as an edge rusher, but I wouldn't be mad literally playing him at any of the other linebacker spots. Because I think if given the time, he could adjust to it and do it, because that's how much of a natural athlete he is. He has a lot of skills that he's bringing to the table that matches the athleticism. And so, if you have an edge rusher, that's fine. You could still put Blake at middle linebacker, and he's still gonna pop someone. He's still gonna get picks. He's still gonna pass rush. When you ask him to, you can move him around. Is that fair to say, Kodey? I feel like I'm not overreaching by saying that.
I prefer him at edge. But I won't disagree that he's such a great athlete and he's so smart of a player that you can play him in other spots. I won't deny that.
No, for sure. It's just an argument to keep him here, and on top of that, you still got a message to send to the state of Colorado. It's cool that you're Coach Prime, that you're coming here and you're doing all that stuff, but unless you could flip a guy like Blake Purchase, then it's like, all right, great. Well, then all the top prospects are going to go to other teams in the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 does recruit Colorado heavily when they choose to, and you're going to compete against those guys, and you're going to have to live with that, and that's fine, but he's a literal 4-star. He's literally one of the best in the country. Are you going to get someone like that out of the transfer portal? Maybe, or are you going to trust your recruiting instincts and go to Tampa and recruit Keon Keeley, or go to California, which is doable, I guess, and recruit a Mateo Uyunglele? I don't know. We'll see. But Blake Purchase, he's interested in CU, which is step one, which is a big one, because there's still a lot of, prospects out there that are looking at CU and they're like, the idea is great, but are they going to there's still the question of, are you going to be successful, Coach Prime? Are you going to win games here? Because you could talk, and that's great, but it comes down to winning. That's what it comes down to. So we'll see. But, yeah, I don't know. Kodey, you agree that it's important that he flips Blake Purchase, though, right? To at least make a point.
Absolutely. Colorado has been losing their top prospects for quite some time now. And, I think that being able to flip a guy like Blake Purchase, it's not just a I mean, how should I say? It's not just, you know, about Blake Purchase per se. It's about more than that. It's about, last year, I mean, this is probably a bad example because I wouldn't have recruited Sawchuk myself. But it's guys like Sawchuk leaving state. It's guys like George Fitzpatrick. I think that's an even better example. That 4-star tackle out of Creek going to Ohio State, and you haven't been able to maintain that in here. It's stuff like that. It's 4-star guy like Terrence Ferguson going to Oregon, and he's been balling out over there too. Whereas maybe if a Coach Prime was here, we could have kept him here in Colorado, but we just don't know that, and it's not something that we've been used to. I mean, look, even going back to 2020, I don't know the last time that the top prospect in Colorado stayed in Colorado. I'm literally looking right now, and it has not happened in quite some time. So, when is it going to flip? Does it start this year? Does it start in your first year? Do you send a message to the rest of the Pac-12 and, to the Big Ten and everyone like, hey, Colorado is here to recruit? Or is it going to be the same old, same old? So,
yes. So we'll see what happens. Or he just commits to Oregon, signs those papers, and he's out there. He's out to Eugene, Oregon, and, joining our boy Terrence Ferguson out there. Which, oh my God. Could you imagine how insane it would be if they're in the Pac-12 championship someday, years from now, and you got a Blake Purchase and a Terrence Ferguson, both Colorado guys, making plays to win the Pac-12 against CU? Could you imagine the outrage there? Oh my God.
I'd be pretty heartbroken, not gonna lie. And I ain't even rock with CU like that, honestly. But from a Colorado perspective, I would be PO'd for sure.
I would not be heartbroken. You got to do better. That's just what it is, But also, I don't have ties like you do to Colorado like that. So, yeah. But with that being said, I mean, hey, Blake Purchase easily number one here, generational talent as of right now. The highest rated prospect we've evaluated. His teammate, I don't think this is a spoiler, Logan Brantley, was pretty high up there as well. Now the second highest player, so there you go. Right? I'm pretty sure by a point, right, Kodey? Because I think he was at an 87.
Yeah, just about.
So there you go. Check out that safeties episode because it should drop before this. But one more time, just talking about this top 5 here. Top 5 edge rushers, seniors here in this class of 2023. We have Hayden Moore out of Regis Jesuit, committed to Nebraska. At number 4, we have Tell Wade out of Ray, committed to Wyoming. At number 3, we have Caden Schaus out of Thunder Ridge, not committed as of right now, which is December 8th, 2022, so we'll see what happens there. And then at number 2, we have Chase Brackney out of Cherry Creek, committed to Iowa. And at number 1, your number 1 edge rusher and the best football player in the state of Colorado is Blake Purchase here. Currently, as of the 8th, committed to Oregon. As of December 8th, 2022, committed to Oregon. So there you go. This was an extremely talented group here. Very graded close together, I would say. A lot of these guys are, all of them are talented, obviously, but a lot of them have skill sets that are similar to each other. And so some of these grades were really close, and we really had to go in here together because usually we do our research separately, then come back together. But we had to do that and then come back again together to really evaluate these guys together and trim what we had to trim there as far as grades go for our PMC grades and our personal grades as well. So a lot of work was put into this one. Honestly, the only sure thing that we knew was that Blake Purchase was at number 1 and Chase Brackney was at number 2. Right, Kodey?
Yes.
So there you go. Do you have anything else to say before I close it up here?
No, I think it was just an absolute pleasure to break down all of these players' films, both on and off the list. And, this was just a really fun group of edge rushers. We've been pretty blessed, edge rusher wise here. I'm looking forward to going back and taking a look at Arden Walker's film and then, watching Malik's film from more of probably an interior defensive lineman standpoint because we hadn't yet separated those categories at that time. So, I think that that'll be very interesting to dive back and compare the legacy of all these great Creek, edge rushers / defensive linemen in general. And, last year was a pretty fun class, one that had a ton of, pressures, and great pass rushers in that class, obviously. But, this one with headlined by two Creek guys for the second time in our podcast history really stole the cake here as far as just high-level talent.
Yes, no, absolutely. So, boom, there you go there. Hey, we are going to continue this series with other positions. As of right now, we have done safeties, inside linebackers, and tight ends. Those are the episodes that have released as of right now, assuming we're going in chronological order here. So just keep that in mind. And so moving forward, we have the rest of these positions. We have the whole offensive line. We're separating interior and offensive tackles just like we did last year. So there you go. We have quarterbacks. We have running backs, receivers, cornerbacks, not to be confused with quarterbacks, and I believe that's it. We're not going to rank kickers and punters. Sorry. I know Kodey is not heartbroken over it, but I know some of our viewers.
Would you stop throwing me under the bus?
I know some of our viewers are a little heartbroken that we won't be evaluating next level kickers and punters. So that's okay, but check out our all Playmaker episodes for those if you want to know the best kickers and punters in the entire state. And if you want to figure out those episodes, you can follow us and subscribe to us and check it out anywhere you can listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on YouTube as well. I believe all of our episodes from this last season are there, which is big time because we didn't do that the last previous 2 seasons, and so you can check it out on YouTube as well. If you want to find more content, go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube, like I said, for YouTube Shorts, where you could see some of those great highlights of these great players there, and from other episodes on there as well. And on TikTok at Playmakers Corner, you can find us with some of those same shorts and TikToks being posted there as well. And on top of that, go ahead and show us some love on social media at Playmakers Corner. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, where you could be up to date with when episodes are going to come out, and all of that great stuff. We'll be posting, I'm sure we'll be posting news about commitments from prospects from all over the state as we have been so far. We do that on Instagram quite a bit, and also on Twitter. I would say more so on Twitter more than anything. So yeah, but go ahead and show some love there. Follow us, subscribe to know when the next episode is going to drop, because we are going to drop more of these. So yeah. Kodey, am I missing anything?
Great work, Coach V.
Thank you.
Kickers, punters, I have no vendetta or grudge against you. just putting that out there. But I think that's a good conclusion, a good wrap up. I've been one of your hosts for this episode, Kodey Stauffer.
And I'm your other co-host, Simon Villanos, a.k.a. Coach V. And I don't hold vendettas against all of those guys. But we'll see you next time regardless.